Hi everyone, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin. So I just want to say thank you again. Thank you to all the people who supported my efforts in the pre-sale. We made our goal of over 100 copies sold pre-order on Amazon, and softcover and hardcover are going to be available. I am going to be doing a book signing at Thrive, which I didn't do with my last book. I don't know why. Maybe I was a little bit afraid to step into the full glory of being an author. And yeah, this time I feel more comfortable. Maybe I've done some deeper work. So anyways, I do appreciate it. I think we're up to 108. How auspicious. And again, you can still pre-order it on Amazon. It still helps. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And fingers crossed to being an Amazon bestseller. So for today's podcast, I thought I would read a little bit of an excerpt from my book that's a bit longer, and I hope that you enjoy it. And there's this and a whole lot more when you get my book in your Kindle, downloaded, the album drops on Thanksgiving. If you want to take a break from your potatoes and your string bean casserole and spend some time with me. So this part of the book is called My Turn to be Coached, Roles Reversed. An integral part of life coach training involves the students conducting coaching sessions with myself and others. In one particularly memorable session, I came to the session with an underlying sense of sadness. I told my coach this, who is one of my students close to graduation and taking her final by coaching me. This is something that is one of the most critical parts of my coaching course. In this case, I let her know my feelings because I want to make sure my students can be present with me. My thoughts were muddled, but she remained calm and asked targeted questions as I had trained her to do. I felt this sense right around my diaphragm of this deep clenching, and I just couldn't let go of it. She guided me into my body a few times, but I kept springing out and disconnecting from my mind-body connection. She started asking me about my sister and niece, who had recently come down from Michigan and stayed with me for a few weeks. I noticed that I felt a lightning bolt in the spot where I was clenching. I think she noticed it because the next question she asked me was, when did they leave? I said, they left a few days ago. She asked if that's when I started feeling this clenching sensation, and you know what? I said yes. Then the floodgates opened. I started crying so hard. I had so much grief bottled up from my mother's death. When I had my sister and my niece at my home for 6 weeks, I felt the unconditional love of a family unit that I had been missing. I felt so bonded to my intuitive, airy, and sometimes goofball sister. We felt like one. Having them here felt like my heart was full, and having them leave felt like my heart had been torn out. I realized that they had activated the mothering aspect that I had within me that I had no idea I possessed. Then their leaving made me realize how much I treasured them and how important connection is to me, especially deep connections and unconditional love. After I cried for about 5 minutes straight, Diana, my beloved student and now quite capable and fantastic coach, sat there with the slightest smile, knowing that I had touched some darkness inside of me that needed to be felt and processed. She reminded me that grief was going to be a long process, but she was so happy that I was able to unbury it. I had such a mix of pride in Diana, of relief within myself, and a deep knowledge that I possess an unconquerable love deep within my soul. She led me through a process where I could handle small samples of that grief at a time, which would otherwise overwhelm myself if I confronted it all at once. I would have to deal with grief in these portioned out droplets, since, as Diana said, my grief would be a process over time. If I could take small doses over a small period of time, it would keep me from completely getting drowned in my emotions. And she was also using one of the techniques that she learned in the course. How Diana did help me with those small doses of grief at any time? I'll tell you the technique works generally, and I'll give you some idea of Diana's use. of the technique when she coached me. So this is the dropper technique. This is a technique that I have developed through my experience coaching clients who had very uncomfortable emotions, as I did in the prior story, on a massive scale, which terrified them. When I asked a client to go directly into their shame, it was too fear-provoking. It was too much for it to even be an option. For instance, I've had clients with PTSD and other trauma for whom this practice was crucial. My trauma triggers and feelings they provoke are all but non-accessible without breaking the challenge into smaller chunks. Confronting the whole may not have been an option, but peeking at the microscopic size sample was a really good start. We needed to go into shame, or at least to start experiencing it on a manageable scale, so we could begin changing our relationship with it. But if we couldn't get even a small fingerprint's worth of powerful, negative, and microscopic emotions, how are we going to even start the process? So the dropper technique is a way of getting a nibble-sized portion of discomfort before taking on the whole meal. It's an appetizer, if you will. But there are a few steps before we're ready to begin. The technique involves first identifying what our least favorite feeling is, which causes us to take actions leading to undesirable results. There are frequently occurring responses to your least favorite feeling you'll encounter as a coach. One of the most common answers is shame or guilt. So these feelings are ones that you want to bring up in you, but first you want to bring up your favorite feeling. So targeting the feeling that you have that's your least favorite or the one that you keep resisting, which guess what? Spoiler alert, they're probably going to be the same. By the way, I'm not reading from my book anymore, but I wanted to explain this to you in person, looking at you. So when you figure out what feeling you're avoiding, the one that seems overwhelming, choose the feeling that's the antidote, right? For me to be able to feel grief, I needed to be able to feel love. And by feeling love and then dropping in little packets, little bite-sized microscopic elements of grief, I was able to process it. So figure out what is your least favorite emotion, the one you're resisting, and what is your favorite. Bring up that favorite emotion and heighten it to a pinnacle inside of your body. And then you use the dropper technique, one drop at a time, right over a specific area. You can place your hands over it, breathe and be with it compassionately, allow it to spread and vibrate through your body. And then what happens is your body takes over because it is wise and magnificent. It's so intelligent, and just let it do its thing. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to make up stories. And by doing this, there's the long guy. And by doing this, you allow yourself to process deep emotions. I hope that helps. I'm going to go before the long guy pisses me off too much. But hey, your favorite life coach that also has feelings and is imperfect and not afraid to share it. Love you guys. Have a fantastic week, and namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. If you want to support the podcast and if it's helping you, please consider writing a review. You can go to iTunes or Google Play, go into the search bar and type in Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching, scroll down, and you can leave a review. This helps other people to find me as well as bumps us up in the search ratings. Also, this podcast is sponsor-free, so that means we don't receive anything for doing it. If you feel so inclined and this podcast is helping to support you and you want to return the favor and help to support any production costs of the podcast, feel free to give a donation to a Venmo link, Thrive Yoga Fit, or PayPal, Erin@erincoach.com. If you don't have the means, don't worry about it. We're not going anywhere. You're all good. But if you would like to give back, you can give back in those ways. Last thing, we have a coaching certification coming up, and it's 7 days of an intensive work, followed by a 3-month mentorship. You will not find another teacher that's more passionate and dedicated than I am to my students and their learning, and not just their learning, but the application and how they show up in their life. If you've been listening to this podcast and it's had a huge impact on your life, just imagine what it would be like to spend 7 intensive days with me and then a 3-month mentorship. You can check that out at thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Again, thriveyogafit.com/coach-certification. Thank you so much. Namaste.